The first thing the woman did after being reborn was block the man in an alley and confess her love to him, in her past life. They'd been together for 5 years and were about to have a baby. On their wedding day, the man who was a firefighter died in an accident while on duty. When she later read his journal, she discovered he'd secretly loved her for over a decade. And the reason he became a firefighter was because she once said she liked them. Heartbroken, she fainted, and when she woke up, she'd gone back to the day they first met. Thinking about how the man she loved was still alive, she rushed out the door in excitement. The moment she looked up, she saw his familiar face, but before she could react, a few thugs came over demanding protection money. Seeing the man about to get hurt, she immediately stepped in front of him. Luckily, he grabbed a stick and quickly drove them off. That's when she remembered they didn't even know each other yet. But the jerk clearly said he'd had a crush on her for years, so why was he being so cold now? He didn't press her further, just warned her that the neighborhood wasn't safe at night and told her to get home early. Watching him walk away, her heart was full of joy, and she silently vowed to love him well in this life. The next day, she planned to rent a place near his house and happened to run into him handing out flyers. He instantly remembered how, back in high school, he'd wanted to confess to her but overheard her saying she didn't like guys with bad grades. Thinking she hated him, he'd avoided her ever since. That's why he'd been so cold last night. When she spotted him again, she ran up cheerfully, and he couldn't help but feel she seemed different from before. Seeing the rental flyer in his hand, she shamelessly insisted on renting his place. But he came up with excuse after excuse to turn her down. Just then, his grandma walked over and invited her to take a look at the room. She didn't have enough money, so she acted cute in front of the old lady. His grandma, charmed by her sweetness, suggested she tutor her grandson and use the pay to cover rent, and even told him not to treat her poorly. When they went to pack her things, she suddenly pinned her against a tree and warned her early not to mess with him again. But she didn't listen. Instead, she cupped his face and kissed him. He froze in shock, and when he finally ran off, his legs were shaking. The next day, she followed him onto the bus and even enrolled in his school. But he completely ignored her. She leaned in close, took out one of his earbuds, and listened to the same song. Still, he couldn't let go of what she'd said years ago about not liking him. At school, everything felt both familiar and new to her. When the students suddenly rushed outside, she followed to see what was happening. Turns out, he just showed up, looking effortlessly handsome, and all the girls were swooning. The wave of jealousy hit her, so she quickly asked her classmates what kind of girl he liked. Later, she overheard some girls whispering that he'd looked at her a couple of times that day because of her outfit. The next day, she dressed up just to catch his attention. He couldn't help but laugh when he saw her. When he still didn't respond, she gathered her courage and confessed, but he just turned to leave. She stopped him, and to her shock, he blew cigarette smoke right at her. Huffing, she told him to put it out. He sneered, saying she couldn't even handle the smell of smoke and shouldn't pretend to be tough. Flustered, she impulsively kissed him again. He froze once more, then awkwardly asked why she kissed so well. She just told him to quit smoking. Blushing, he turned away and left. The next day, pictures of their kiss spread all over the school. A scheming girl who had a crush on him saw them and gathered her friends to teach the woman a lesson. After school, they blocked her way. The jealous girl raised her hand to slap her, but just then the man showed up and caught her wrist. In the chaos, the woman stumbled and fell to the ground, leaving everyone around them stunned.